In one of his most striking messages, Geza said the time for silence is over. He called for people to flood the streets from one end of the country to the other, saying Mnangagwa must go. He has accused the president of surrounding himself with corrupt individuals he calls the Zviganandas, and of trying to, in his words, mutilate the constitution for his own benefit. This is explosive language, and it shows just how deep the anger runs among certain factions who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Mnangagwa. Now, here is something you need to understand about Zimbabwean politics. When war veterans speak this way, the government does not take it lightly. Mnangagwa himself has responded publicly, calling these actions treasonous. He has referred to certain people inside his own party as, and this is his word, chameleons, meaning people who pretend to be loyal but are secretly working against him. He has warned that these individuals will, in his words, soon meet their fate. That is a heavy statement coming from a sitting president about his own party members. And it has not stopped at words. Authorities have taken real action. There was a manhunt launched for Geza, with police pursuing charges that include undermining the authority of the president and inciting public violence. A journalist who covered Geza's protest calls was also arrested. Security officials have publicly stated they are ready to deal with anyone who tries to organize these demonstrations. This shows you just how seriously the government is treating this so-called coup and uprising talk. If you are new here, welcome, and make sure you subscribe, because we break down stories like this one with real detail, not just headlines. Now, let's keep going, because there is even more to this picture. There is also the question of who benefits if Mnangagwa is pushed out early. That name is Vice President Constantino Chiwenga. Chiwenga was the army general who led the 2017 operation that brought Mnangagwa to power in the first place. Many believe the understanding at the time was that Chiwenga would eventually take over from Mnangagwa after one term. That promise, according to many analysts and insiders, was never honored. Now, years later, there are strong indications that a large portion of this internal resistance, including Geza and the war veterans faction, see Chiwenga as their preferred replacement for Mnangagwa. Geza has publicly referred to Chiwenga as the commander, hinting at where his loyalty lies. This has turned the entire situation into something bigger than just a disagreement over term limits. It has become a succession battle, a fight over who truly controls Zanu-Pf and, by extension, who controls Zimbabwe. And when you have two powerful camps, one loyal to Mnangagwa and one aligned with Chiwenga, both with connections to the military and both with access to serious resources, that is when a normal political disagreement can start to look like something far more dangerous. This is also around the time that tensions between top Zanu-Pf officials became public in a very undiplomatic way. Christopher Mutsvangwa, who serves as the party's Secretary for Information, launched a direct and personal attack on Vice President Chiwenga, calling him illiterate and describing him as an electoral liability. When senior party officials start insulting each other like that in public, it is usually a clear sign that the private conversations happening behind closed doors are even worse. Now, bring yourself back to more recent months. This year, the amendment bill kept moving through Parliament, and observers noticed something strange happening in the chamber. Zanu-Pf senators and even traditional chiefs, who under the constitution are supposed to stay out of party politics, stood up one after another, using almost identical language to support the bill. They spoke about stability, they spoke about Vision 2030, and they argued that 5 years is simply too short a time to build major infrastructure. One traditional chief even called the Justice Minister an angel for bringing the bill forward. To many watching, this looked less like genuine debate and more like a coordinated performance. And it's not just talk about influence through speeches. There have been reports of Zanu-Pf-aligned business people handing out cash and vehicles to legislators, allegedly to secure their votes in favor of the amendment. This has not been fully confirmed through an independent investigation, so I want to be careful here and frame it exactly as it has been reported, as an allegation, not a proven fact. But it does show you the scale of pressure being applied to get this amendment passed. Meanwhile, opposition to this whole plan has not stayed confined to Zanu-Pf's internal factions. Outside the ruling party, 5 political groups based in Matabeleland came together and issued a joint statement condemning what they called the 2030 Agenda, describing it as an assault on constitutionalism and democracy. This shows you that the resistance to Mnangagwa extending his rule is not only coming from disgruntled war veterans inside Zanu-Pf, it is also coming from civil society and opposition voices who see this as a much bigger threat to Zimbabwe's democratic future. So now you can see the full picture forming. You have a constitutional amendment moving through parliament with what critics call manufactured support. You have Zanu-Pf military retirees actively organizing against it. You have Blessed Geza calling for uprisings, not once but multiple times. You have arson, police crackdowns, and a president firing generals to secure loyalty. And now, most recently, leaked reports naming 9 retired officers led by Henry Muchena, who are reportedly working to build an alliance with civil society, unions, and opposition parties, specifically to stop this amendment and possibly remove Mnangagwa altogether. This is exactly the kind of pressure cooker environment where words like coup start getting used, whether or not an actual coup is being planned in the traditional sense. In the next section, I want to bring in the wider pattern here, because Zimbabwe has actually seen this movie before, and I'll also walk you through what could potentially happen next.